So I'm just showing you basically obvious uptrend from here all the way up. It keeps on going up and up and up. Silver in the past 2 days went up by quite a bit. So we noticed that obvious an uptrend, and we noticed that people are gaining momentum here in all these days, and people are getting into the market. But I noticed that in these highest volume, it's a pivot. So when a trend is, there's an impulse move and then there's a correction move. Impulse, correction, you know. And in the correction pivot, we notice that it creates the highest volume. So the highest volume, this volume is extended more than anything. We can't extend it more anymore, and you see that the rest of the bars we go downhill and the volume is down. So we notice that these pivots, um, these high volume pivots show an exaggeration of price. So if volume is an enthusiasm indicator of the trend, the enthusiasm got too much enthusiasm, and it pulled back. And these two bars later on, these big red bar, which has zero, not very much volume, half the volume, not even half the volume of this green bar. This was a solid sell-off bar, which makes me think that this sell-off bar is not indeed the trend here. And we also notice that this green bar, which overlaps all of them, is half the volume of this big pivot here. So I don't know what happened there, but obvious obviously people are changing values. So we notice that it is a supply zone. We notice that it's a former big pivot here that worked. That means there should be sellers around here, and it did work here. Basically to the T here. See that? See this pivot? It worked against this pivot. Basically to a T there, and that's why it sold off. But here it's doing the same thing. It's in that pivot. It's in this supply zone, but also it's just over exaggerated on the volume side. So there's a pivot upwards, and it moves downwards. And I'm trying to figure out why this happens, because it happens here too. You know, this is a pivot, and we see that it's pretty high volume compared to the ones around it. It's pretty high volume. It keeps moving on. It's an uptrend, solid uptrend. There's no real reversal. Here it could be a reversal because it came up and it went down by quite a big margin. We notice that the volume is very high here. And we see that retracement. It's going on, and then this is a big retracement. See, and it was also a point of perfect supply, meaning it's a point of no return here. If it breaks this purple line, it's going up because this is complete free space. This is a 15-minute chart, so it's definitely free space. So this is the point of no return, and it actually hits that point of no return and turns around, and it actually shows a very big volume on this bar, and it was not a very extended range bar. It's just uptrend, and it goes downwards. So a lot of people are joining the party on this green bar, but a lot of people are also joining the party on this green bar, or keeps on extending itself. I don't know if people are buying or people are selling off to get profits. I think it's people shuffling orders, meaning maybe people are getting out. But if it breaks it, maybe we're gonna get back into it. Who knows? Um, I don't know. I really don't know. All I know is that this patch right here is very high volume compared to the rest of the days. It's very high volume. We got two big high volumes, and the highest of that in this morning session is indeed this pivot. It keeps on going, uptrend, and we see another pivot right here. This is a retracement, and this is indeed a very high volume. So we see the volume is showing that these pivots are going to be pivots for quite some time. So in this case, this highest volume right here, this pivot shows. So if this red bar shows, well, I see that this pivot is actually definitely, well, most definitely a pivot. And how I know that is it's the highest volume of the ones to the left of it. This one, highest volume that ones to the left of it for quite some time. It is highest, and that's why it is the pivot. That's why it can be trusted as the pivot. So if it comes up here in this little wick, you can probably look for a supply zone to go short on it, because we know that this is the pivot. So in this case, this quality uptrend, and it comes up, gets overextended. The enthusiasm is very high, and it gets cut down. So I don't know who's selling here. It could just be because it's a supply zone. Yeah, it is a point of supply, but still, it is a point of supply. But still, man, I think maybe some sellers are joining the market, and then maybe some people are selling off because of the supply zone. I'm not sure. All in all, it keeps on going, and then this is a pivot as well. And this pivot shows very high volume to the ones to the left. That means you can trust this pivot to be a pivot. And look what happens on the red bar. It does retrace. I mean, not a huge retracement, but it does retrace. So then it continues on. So all we know is when a trend is trending in one direction, you can tell a retracement is true when the volume is very, very high. Perhaps when price gets overextended, there's a volume explanation. I don't know, a volume climax, they could call it. A volume climax, this climax this way, and in turn, in the same 15-minute bar, price moved down, and or price retraced. So that is the look of an uptrend. That's where we can see retracements. How to tell if it's retracement? It's high volume node. It's just a high volume candle. Simple. So this candle is very high. So we've formed that. That should be a retracement because it's a very high volume compared to all the rest. I mean, this is definitely high volume. Goes downwards and it forms that pivot. So high volume is looking at the pivots, at least in silver. You can relate this to any uptrend or any downtrend you see. Look for these high volume points and find that they are pivots. And you don't do that hindsight. You can do this right now. You can do this right here. We notice that, oh, this is very high volume. Sure, there could be another volume like this, but this showed selling pressure. We're in a supply zone. We're going to be looking for shorts inside of that, and you could probably get in. You can probably get in around here. You can probably get in something around here when it starts turning downwards. So that is it.
Deep with the crew, that's how we move. My young boys got that tool. That's how we move out here trying to fuck that school.